Hey guys, with the information about Marsha and the corresponding Euphoria updates for version 3.3 plus version 3.1 is right around the corner, it's now the perfect time to establish a new pull plan and plan ahead accordingly. There's a whole bunch to unpack here, so make yourself a coffee, grab yourself some popcorn, and let's dive right into it. This is gonna be a massively long video. If you don't wanna hear me talk about every single character and every single banner, and you don't wanna hear about all the possible context, use the timestamps in the description of this video, and I will also pin them in the comment section. That way you can just feel free to skip straight to the actual pull plans for veterans and for new players in case you are dead. The very next character that is going to be released is gonna be Robushka. So in version 3.1 we're gonna have Bushki and Corvi. We're gonna have Robushka and Corvus. Let's talk about Robushka first. You would not pull Robushka for the Blood Tide team. You would not pull her to replace Medicine Pocket in the Blood Tide team, because that would be a waste of your bunnies, as you do not need to replace Medicine Pocket at all. He or she or whatever that thing is gets the job done in this Blood Tide team perfectly fine, no replacement needed. The actual spot that you would pull Robushka for is the Ultimate Archetype team if you want to play it with their best in slots. That would be Recoleta, Melania and Getian. We know that Getian needs reality damage characters, and therefore we need to play a sustain character together with Getian that deals reality damage. The only two characters available for us at the time will be Mrs. Bubble and Sotheby. Now, both of these characters, especially Mrs. Bubble, doesn't really get the job done good enough anymore. You would truly want to replace Mrs. Bubble here. You would not want to play her in the first place, right? And the same kind of scenario appears for or applies to Sotheby as well. Sotheby is good, is still a good character, but I tried it myself, I tested it out, and for the hardest content in the game, Sotheby is also not quite good enough anymore, right? So you would want, if you could get your hands onto a replacement for these two, you would want to get your hands onto a replacement indeed. So that is where Robushka would come in and fill the void. You can already maybe tell from how I'm phrasing things that this is not 100% needed, you know? You clear the hardest content in the game with Blood Tide, Dynamo and Impromptu anyways, so you wouldn't necessarily need to do this with the Ultimate Archetype team. You would be fine, you would get away with using Sotheby there, because the stages that you would not be able to beat with Sotheby in this team, you could beat it with Blood Tide, Dynamo or Impromptu, you know what I mean? So see Robushka as a little bit of a luxury investment, and only pull for her if you have a lot of bunnies left and you wouldn't take a risk of missing out on future characters in version 3.2. Then onto Corvus. First of all, Corvus is a character that is only here for new players. If you joined the game after the 2nd anniversary, which would mean you did not get your hands onto Lucy and Ulrich, this is when you would pull for Corvus and establish her as your first true main DPS character. You have to keep two very important things in mind here, and those are that you need to have the character Sharon that released a version before the version that Corvus is part of. Without this character Sharon, Corvus is unplayable because she needs the pulsing field on level 3 no matter what, and she needs it quick. Otherwise your team will be too slow. Additionally, in the very next version that comes around, that joins the fray, after Corvus's banner is gone, you will need to pull for the character that you see here next to Corvus, which is called Brume. And those three, Corvus, Brume, and Sharon, this is gonna be your first true meta tier team, and you will need to establish yourself this very team in case you are a new player. If you are not a new player and you were part of the second anniversary and you have Lucy and Ulrich, then for all of those players, Corvus is an absolute must skip character, no matter how you look at it or how you spin it. Alright, we have to talk about the Euphoria banner in version 3.1 as well, of course. And here you can see, this is it. We have the three characters, Medicine Pocket, Eternity, and Ezra. Let's talk about them real quick. I talked about them in my previous video already, so I will cut it short here. Medicine Pocket is the healer for the Blood Tide team. You will have him already at your disposal, otherwise you would not be able to play Blood Tide, so it is very reasonable to assume that you already have him. Even if you wouldn't have him, then you pull for Robushka in this version instead. Eternity, same kind of scenario here appears. You will already have Eternity at your disposal. If you don't have Eternity, you will have Sentinel. If you don't have one of those characters, then like, what are you doing? You can't play Blood Tide, right? It would be super duper weird. But yeah, I mean, if you play, let's say, Nautica and Semmelweis together with Fatutu and Flutterpage, you will have to replace them here, and you have to pull for Eternity and Medicine Pocket. There's no way around it, because you will have to have Flutterpage and Fatutu freed up for the next version. Spoiler alert. Then we have Ezra, that is the sustain character for the Dynamo archetype team. You will have him already at your disposal, otherwise, right? Again, like, what are you doing? If that's not the case though, if you don't have Ezra, then at this point you would still skip Ezra and not pull for him, like, no matter what. That would be a huge waste of your resources, because you can play, you will have Sharon, right, at your disposal, for sure. And Sharon makes it so that the sustain character for the Dynamo archetype team Ezra is now replaceable. So again, even if you don't have Ezra, you play any sustain of your choice in the Dynamo archetype team. If you don't have one, Robushka is available there. Don't forget about that. Okay, now we can move on to Argus and A-Knight. Let's talk about Argus first. Her Euphoria buffs her and makes her viable to be played in the rank up team. This one right here. If you have Marcus Via and one of either Mercuria or Hisabeth, right? So you have to have Marcus and Via. That is very important. Now, if you miss out on a character like, for example, Hisabeth or even Mercuria, that is where Argus comes in and is able to replace one of these characters in this team. But again, emphasis is on, you need to have Marcus and Via, otherwise forget about Argus. Then for A-Knight, he is not viable. He has this little tiny niche of, if you, let's say, are of the mindset that the very little amount of time that you already spent in this game, or you are like, oh, the artificial somnambulism like stages like Lucidscape, for example, oh man, they take me too long. I wish I could clear them in 2 minutes instead of like 4 to 5 minutes. Then A-Knight would be your pick, and you would then play him in the ultimate archetype team right here and replace Recoleta with him. But that is so very teeny tiny niche and not needed at all, right? Even if, let's say, right, this scenario would occur and you would be like, oh, I don't have Recoleta, it doesn't matter, because you will have Buddy Fairchild. You will have one other main DPS other than Recoleta available for the ultimate archetype team. That's pretty much guaranteed. If you are brand new and you joined the game after the second anniversary, then you might not have one of those characters available. But Still, then that also means you don't have Melania, you don't have Robushka probably, you will not have Getian most likely. So if you are that new, forget about the ultimate archetype team for now. You will have to worry about Dynamo first. So A Knight is an absolute must skip. If you want to pull for something on this Euphoria banner, Argus is your pick, but again only if you have Marcus and Via and you don't have the character either Hisabeth or Mercuria, and this is where Argus then comes in clutch and is a viable replacement for these characters there for sure. Another note is that you have to know Argus is not the best in slot. Hisabeth and Mercuria are the best in slots. So you would only pull for Argus if you don't have one of these two characters that I mentioned twice now. You would not replace one of those with Argus. Alright. Additionally, in version 3.1, we have two additional banners hitting us, and they are both quite massive, at least this one right here, called the Covenant of the Water banner, or how I like to call this, the Christmas banner. First, let me explain how this banner works again. Here we have it. You can perform up to 60 summons on this banner. Once you hit 30 summons, you are 100% guaranteed to pick up one of two items at random. You either pick up the Golden Skin 1 or you pick up the Golden Skin 2. If you would pick up the Golden Skin 1, you could choose one of the following characters to obtain: Fatutu, Willow, Tuesday, Kakania, Windsong Noir, Ananli, Voyager or Barcelona. If you would pick up the Golden Skin number 2, you could pick up the following characters: Recoleta, Flutterpage, Semmelweis, Pickles, Argus, Jay, Getian, Via, Marcus. Alright, so make sure, right, that on December 20th you have 60 Unilogs, 60 bunnies available for yourself. If you don't, you have time until January 4th, because then this banner goes away. This banner is a must pull and it is unskippable. You do not want to pass up that value. And of course, there is a little bit of a priority list going on here. For example, if you look at the Golden Skin 1, you can see like Fatutu, Willow, Tuesday, you can see a lot of characters there that you can pick from. And there is a no-brainer with Fatutu. If you don't have Fatutu, you pick Fatutu immediately from this. No question about it, right? Easy. But the priority list is a little bit random because of Willow, Tuesday, Kakania, Windsong Noir. All of those characters are actually very likely to receive their Euphorias in the near future. The next version 3.4, for example, is Chinese based. That means Noir could receive a Euphoria update. Windsong and Kakania just got new garments, so it is not too far-fetched to believe they would get the Euphoria updates soon, because why otherwise would they receive garments, right? That wouldn't make any sense. Then Tuesday's Euphoria update is long overdue, so it is also quite reasonable to predict she will get a Euphoria update soon. And that is why I'm telling you now how this works. You spend all your 60 summons here to obtain both of these items, the Golden Skin 1 and the Golden Skin 2. And what you're gonna do is you will not open these. You will keep these items in your inventory and you wait and wait and wait until one of the characters that is available in this item will receive a Euphoria update. That is the best strat you could possibly go for, right? Let's say Windsong receives a Euphoria update. You're gonna wait and see. is this Windsong Euphoria actually good? Is this trash? Should I pick up Windsong now? Or should I keep this item in my inventory and wait for like a Noir Euphoria update? And so on and so forth, right? You get the point. You can save this, keep it in your inventory, and open it up once the best possible time presents itself to you. Of course, as I said, you can immediately pick up Fatudu if you don't have her. If, like Voyager or Barcelona, are the only characters for the impromptu line that you miss, pick them up right away, right? That is never gonna be a mistake by any stretch of the imagination. Then same goes for the golden screen too. If you have Getian and Melania, but you don't have Recoleta, you immediately pull Recoleta out of this, right? If you don't have Flutter Page, you immediately gonna grab Flutter Page out of this, right? But again, the best possible strat is to wait until one of these characters here receives a Euphoria update. Like, for example, Jay could receive a Euphoria update really soon that synergizes around the Afterglow archetype. And if you open this item up to pick like Recoleta or Getian or something like that, you might be sad that you haven't picked up Jay for the Afterglow if you open this item up too early. Okay, so that's the trick here, and I think we are fine to move on. We could talk about this banner here for like 2 hours straight. So if there is any question that you have, or anything you would wonder about, anything you would want to talk about when it comes to this banner, then join the Discord server. Link to it is in the description down below, and ping me on this Discord server with whatever you want to talk about, and I'm gonna reply to you as soon as possible. Sometimes I'm streaming on twitch.tv. Link to that also in the description down below. If you come to my stream, in case I wouldn't reply immediately on the Discord server, then the stream is the next best possible point to talk to me directly. Alright, let's move on to the next banner now. Up to the next insane banner, which is the Yearning on the Water banner that will be here from January 1st to January 14th. And it features both Kiparina and Aleph. Now, you know by now, or in case you don't know, the Yearning on the Water banner, that is what we refer to as the scam banner, and it is always 100% of the times a skip no matter what. Now, you might be like, whoa, Kiparina is such a good character, she is so versatile, I can play her in multiple teams. Why in the world would I skip this? The answer is because you could also get Aleph. Let's say you pull on this banner to obtain yourself Kiparina, which you so desperately want. I'm in the same boat. I also, if let's say Kiparina would have her own banner, her rerun banner, I would pull for Kiparina and I would tell everyone that's a must pull. Now, on this Yearning on the Water banner, that is not the case. You are not guaranteed ever, no matter how many bunnies you spend, to obtain Kiparina. You can go into this banner pulling for Kiparina, and you can end up with like 3 or 4 Alephs, and then you have spent like 200 plus bunnies and you still don't have Kiparina. That is why we call this banner a scam banner, because you will be scammed off of your resources. The risk that you take here is way too high, right? You might even be in the exact opposite scenario, that like, yo, Straw, I play impromptu, so of course I have Kiparina, but Aleph released at a time where my resources were scarce, and by pulling for Aleph I would have taken the risk to not get Kiparina. That's why I actually skipped Aleph, you know, or for whatever reason that you skipped Aleph. You play impromptu, you don't have Aleph, right? That's the point. Then you might be like, yo, I know how good of a character Aleph is for this impromptu lineup. He elevates the impromptu team to a whole new level. He's broken for this team. So let me try to obtain him on the spanner, right? What would you say? Should I pull for the spanner to try to get Aleph? And the answer is, like I explained before, absolutely not. Because for the same exact reason, if you go in here and you pull for Aleph for your impromptu team, you will end up with 3, 4, 5 Kipparinas. You will have spent 200 bunnies and you will still not have Aleph. You know what I mean? That is the risk that you are taking here. And taking this risk is dumb. That's it. That's it about the Yearning on the Water banner. Be aware. Don't pull honest trash, right? That is like advice that everyone in their right mind would give you. Skip this Yearning on the Water banner, no matter how good it might look to you. Okay, now we have version 3.2. We have to talk about this version as a whole, because there are a whole bunch of synergies going on here, and it is a quite massive patch. We also have to talk a little bit about the next version, because the characters there will come in clutch. But yeah, let's start off by talking about the new character Beryl first. Let's move Brume out of the way, because she is a whole different topic altogether here. Okay, so Beryl will be released. She is Matilda's mom. There will be a plot twist, so stay tuned for that when it comes to the story here. But that's not the topic of this video. Beryl, she is extremely beautiful, first of all. That's very important to point out. And she brings a new archetype into this game. It is a rework for the archetype Burn called Afterglow. And the only character that synergizes with this Afterglow archetype, mechanic, however you want to call it, in version 3.2 is the character Isolde. Isolde will be part of the Euphoria banner and receive her Euphoria update. So these two are partners in crime, as I like to call them, and they will have to be played together. So if you would pull for Beryl, then you also need Isolde and the other way around, right? Those are the only two characters, as I said, that synergize around the same mechanic called Afterglow. Now there is a whole bunch of follow-up shenanigans going on here, as well as burn shenanigans. So the best possible setup to play these characters from the archetype Afterglow, Beryl and Isolde with, are Flutterpage and Fatutu, as it mostly is, right? Flutterpage and Fatutu are a legendary duo, and they pretty much make every single character in this game viable and good if you just play him together with these two. Alright, cool. Now, there is a little bit of a problem that occurs, because we will have the character Anionala receiving a Euphoria update as well. Now, she will not be part of the Euphoria banner. She is a limited character, and therefore she will get her own banner, which we call a rerun. Okay. Now, she is also a follow-up attack archetype character. She receives a new partner in crime here with Calabauna. Calabauna will be part of the Euphoria banner and receive her Euphoria update, which synergizes beautifully with Anionala in version 3.2. These two will have to be played together. Now comes the problem, because Calabauna and Anionala, they also want to be played together with Flutterpage and Fatutu. So what that means is, you can pretty clearly see it here, you will, in version 3.2, only be able to play either Beryl and Isolde, or Carla Bauna and Anionala. You cannot play both of these teams at the same time, because again, both of them demand the attention of Flutterpage and Fatutu. There's more to this, because here there is one more problem and another caveat to this. Let's first of all talk about the character Marsha that we get access to in version 3.3, so the version after Beryl, Isolde, Anio and Carla are released. Keep that in mind. Marsha is the sustain character for the Afterglow archetype team. That would free up Fatutu to be played with Carla Bauna and Anionala. You then put Marsha into the Afterglow team. You will play Marsha together with Beryl and Isolde. Now there is a place here that is void, as you can see, because what are we going to do with Flutterpage, right? Do we put her in the Afterglow team, or do we put her together with Fatutu and play them together with Anionala and Carla Bauna? This is a question that we can't fully answer yet, but here, yeah, of course, like the best place for Flutterpage, if you wanna find that, it's gonna be the Afterglow team, because yeah, as you can see, like Beryl, Isolde, Marsha, that's the Afterglow team, and they have a spot that is void. It cannot be filled yet. There is a character missing. The best in slot here is Flutterpage. So you should play Flutterpage for the time being in this Afterglow setup. It's gonna be stronger than Carla Bauna and Anionala because of like how freaking good Marsha is. Now comes a little bit of speculation. That is something we don't know. We might get the last character for the Afterglow archetype in the next version, right? In version 3.4. Maybe we will even have to wait until version 3.5. We don't know that yet. There is something about Igor though, because if you look at his animations and about the whole character, there is also a lot of burn, a lot of fire going on when you look at his animations and his ultimate, right? So you could speculate very much that we move Isolde to the support slot, we move Beryl to the sub DPS slot. That is another topic that I always felt that Beryl is a sub DPS. She never gave off the vibe to me to be a true main DPS character. I always looked at Beryl as a sub DPS. That to me would make a whole lot of more sense. And then Isolde can easily be the replacement for Flutterpage and can be moved to the support slot. That would perfectly fit and wouldn't be an issue at all. So now Igor comes in. It is a little bit unlikely that Igor is actually the main DPS for the Afterglow archetype, because you get in the same version, you get the sustain and the main DPS for the same archetype. That would be a little bit on the expensive side. You would have then a version where you would have to pull for two characters. Two new characters are both must pulls in one version. That is something that usually doesn't occur. It never ever in the lifespan of Reverse1999 as a video game occurred ever, except you could argue for the first anniversary with Lucy and Carcania. But other than that, it never happened. So it is unlikely, but not impossible, right? That Igor is the main DPS for the Afterglow. So again, if that happens, you will have to save up a lot, as I always put emphasis on. You will have to save a lot of resources up, bunnies, for version 3.2. And even 3.3 as well now, because you will not want to skip Beryl. That means you have to pull for Isolde, and the next version you have to pull for Marsha as well, and now maybe Igor, right? So yeah, keep that in mind. But for now, as things truly stand, you play Flutter Page together with Marsha, Isolde and Beryl. And the team, right? You could of course go the route of skipping Afterglow altogether. Then of course you play Flutter Page and Fatutu together with Kalabauna and Anyonala, and you can then skip Marsha, right? I will establish like the different ways at the end of this video. So let's talk about the rest of all these things that we haven't talked about yet, like for example the character Marsha. Alright, let's talk about the character Brume. I already talked about Brume briefly here and there, and I told everyone that she's complete garbage and an absolute must skip. That is still true. Now, there is this nonsense spread around the community though, because after Brume came out, she exceeded our expectations and she is a better character than we initially thought she would be. And now everyone is flipping out and, oh, Brume is OP, must pull, bladder Nordica, right? All of this garbage nonsense again, because people in the gacha communities are for some reason unable to judge characters properly. Okay, with that being out of the way, let's figure out why you still should not pull for Brume and why she's an absolute waste of your resources. First of all, it is the case that if you would pull for Brume, you would replace Ulrich in the Dynamo archetype team. That is not gonna happen. You will not play Brume together with like a Lucy or something. You should never spend your resources onto replacing an already broken character like Ulrich. That doesn't make any sense, right? We didn't do it with Sentinel to replace Eternity, we did not do this for Robushka to replace Medicine Pocket, and we will also not do this with Brume to replace Ulrich. That is nonsense, right? Okay, additionally, look at everything that is going on around Brume. We just pulled for Sharon. You will probably pull for Robushka. You will pull for Beryl. You need Anyonala, probably. You will pull for Isolde because you pull for Brume. You probably want Kalabauna then. Next version, you have another must pull with Marsha. You will probably dive into more Euphoria banners than the one I just mentioned, right? So, like, what do you want to pull for in the next few versions? You want to pull for like 5 or 6 characters in the span of like 2 or 3 versions? I mean, good luck to your wallet if that's what you are on about, right? We talk about mostly free-to-play players or like at best low spenders that spend like $5 a month or around $5 for the roaring month, right? And yeah, there's no way in hell that you will ever have enough resources to pull for all of these characters. So you will have to skip something. And the best, Sharon is unskippable. Everyone already has Sharon, right? There was no question about that. Now you could skip Robushka, would absolutely be no problem. You can skip the entire version 3.1. From what I'm gathering, everyone will pull for Robushka, right? So there's that. And I'm telling you, no one is gonna skip Beryl. No one in the world is ever gonna skip Beryl. That means they are committed to the Afterglow archetype and they need Isolde and Marsha, right? You will probably go for a rerun for Anyonala and all that stuff, right? I already counted all of this down, and the most logical thing to skip, you will have to skip something, and the most logical thing to skip is easily Brume. Alright, now let me tell you why Brume and what the team was around that made Brume perform quite well and exceed our expectation. That was, you guessed it, a team with Fatutu and Flutterpage, and yeah, they simply let Anionala bind herself to Brume, and that was literally about it. It is nothing impressive, it is completely overrated, and we have it again, some just dogshit information spread around the community like we always do, you know. I already mentioned in my previous video, I expected this, I predicted this a long time ago to happen with Corvus, but yeah, I'm hit with a tiny little bit of a plot twist, and we now have this bullshit going on with Brume. Okay, I just wanted to inform you about this. What I initially said, even though I underestimated Brume a little bit, it still holds true. She's an absolute must skip. You shouldn't pull for her for the reasons that I just explained. Okay, in version 3.2, we have quite a banger of a Euphoria banner. Here it is, right? We have Ezra again. You completely ignore Ezra. We already talked about him. Then, of course, we have Kalabauna. That is a must pick up if you want to play Anionala. And we have Isolde. That is a must pick up if you want to play Beryl. Keep the situation around Flutterpage and Fatutu and even Marsha in mind here when you think about these characters. Okay. Now, what makes this banner like truly interesting is that we have an entire team covered in this Euphoria banner. Here, you can establish yourself the entirety of the rank up team. We have both Marcus and Via, who are absolutely needed in the core of the rank up team, plus we can get our hands onto Argus one more time. So, whoa, that is a crazy Euphoria banner here where you can go completely nuts and pull for everything except for Ezra, right? Of course, I would not recommend this. I would recommend you pull for Beryl in this version, you pick up Isolde, and that's kind of about it. Of course, if you already have Anionala and you just need to upgrade her Euphoria update, then yeah, if you don't have Kalabauna as well, then grab Kalabauna, right? But again, like let's say you have Marcus, but you don't have Via, you can grab Via. If you have Via, but you don't have Marcus, you can grab Marcus, right? And then you need like Hisabeth, Mercuria, or Argus. And yeah, like two of those, of course. And you already have like an entire team. You can even use the substitute Annalie if you have that, right? The point is that it is pretty easy and yeah, pretty reasonably cheap here to establish yourself an entire team. So keep that in mind. Which makes this whole thing even more interesting is this Euphoria banner right here for version 3.3, because looky look, Mercuria is not only part of the Euphoria banner in version 3.3, but she even gets a teeny tiny Euphoria update, if you even want to call it that. She gets a little bit better because she gets stats increases though. Here again, right, if you don't have Hisabeth, you don't have Annalie, you don't have Arius, right, Mercuria is here to pick her up. And then keep in mind that Isolde and Kalabauna are here as well, so if you skip them in the last version because you didn't have the resources there, you have another chance to pick at least one of those two up then in version 3.3, right? And we have like Getian here, we have Melania here to like again, right? This is what my rant and my last video was about, that every single time we gather, we cater everything towards new players. We do this this is like the third version in a row where every single character is only here for new players. Robushka is there for new players if they don't have Medicine Pocket. The entirety of Argus, Ezra, Eternity, and so on and so on, everything in the Euphoria banners is new players. Corvus is for new players. Brume is for new players, right? The only teeny tiny thing that is not for new players is Afterglow. You could even make an argument and say it's only Beryl and Marsha that are not for new players. It's absolutely incredible. But it is what it is. That is not what this video is about, right? So again, if you miss piece for the ultimate archetype team, like Getian, for example, or maybe even Melania. That would be crazy if you want to play ultimate archetype but you don't have Melania, right? So, but in case that is the case, in case you wanna establish your ultimate team at some point moving forward, grab Melania. Getian is the best in slot for the ultimate archetype team as well. Grab him. And then even Anali, she receives an impromptu Euphoria update, believe it or not. So if you miss like Regulus, if you miss Voyager, not quite Aleph, but maybe even him, right? If you would miss like these characters, something for the impromptu team that is not Kiparina, then you can grab Anali here, but I would highly suggest you do not pick up Anali under any circumstance. That would be a huge waste. And then Mercuria only for the rank up team, right? We talked about this. The main juicer here that we have another chance to get Isolde and or Calabauna here in case we lacked resources in the previous version. And that's gonna be about that. Let's take a look at how the pull plans for veterans and how the pull plan for new players should look like. So let's make it more convenient to look at and establish like the true pull plan. Here we have, of course, we have the you should pull with the gray area where characters belong to that you should or should not pull depending on how many resources you have available or what characters do you have at your disposal. And we have the skip area for characters that you should skip. This first pull plan here is gonna be for us veterans, so not for new players. We have the characters in version 3.1 with Robushka, Corvus, Argus, A-Knight, Eternity, Astra and Medicine Pocket. Those are the characters that we can get our hands on in this very version from the regular banners. So Robushka belongs in the gray area, pointing more towards pull. If you play the ultimate archetype team with Getian and if you have enough resources, that's a luxury pull, not a must pull. Corvus is a must skip, no matter what. Then Argus depends on how your rank up team looks. It's in a gray area, pointing more towards skip though, because you should have Mercuria and Hisabeth instead. Hisabeth. Then A-Knight is, of course, as we said, an absolute skip. There's no question about that one. Then same goes for Eternity. You will already have her or Sentinel at your disposal. Astra, even if like you don't have Astra but you think you need her for the Dynamo, no, she is now replaceable thanks to the character Sharon. Then Medicine Pocket is the same kind of scenario as Eternity. You will already have him, her, it, and if you don't, then you can pull for Robushka instead. Don't forget about the Scam banner and the Christmas banner. The Christmas banner, I told you the strat there, and the Scam banner is a Scam banner that you should skip. So we can move on to version 3.2. In version 3.2 we can get our hands onto the characters Beryl, Isolde, Anionala, Calabauna and Brume. Now with the information about Marsha that came out, I would consider Beryl and Isolde must pulls for us veteran characters, considering that how good Marsha is first of all, and that so many characters are just void fillers for new players. We need to spend our money, our bunnies, our money for that matter, somewhere. And the best choice that we have is by far Beryl and Isolde right there. Then Calabauna and especially Anionala. You should look at Anionala as a luxury investment. If you already have her, lucky you. If you don't, you need to evaluate how many resources you have after you pulled for Beryl and Isolde. If you can easily afford Anionala without any problem, without risking you being able to 100% guarantee you Marsha next version, then sure, go for Anionala right there. And the same kind of scenario applies to Anionala as well, although that one can be more towards the skip area because you don't really need her. You can also use Yearning as a replacement here. And then, yeah, for Brume, that is an absolute must skip. Last but not least, we have version 3.3. There we can obtain ourselves the characters Marsha and Igor. We don't have information about Igor yet, so he will not be here. Additionally, we can get our hands onto Marcus, Annalie, Via, and Mercuria. Alright, can we talk about real quick how gorgeous this garment from the Assassin's Creed collaboration for Marcus is? An absolute snack right there. Alright, so Marsha is an absolute must pull, right? Explains itself. If Beryl and Isolde are must pulls, so is Marsha. Then this whole rank up team, the shenanigans around the whole rank up team, I will put them into the gray area, pointing more towards skip though, because yeah, we just have better options to spend our bunnies on than those characters. So obtaining them would be really nice and beneficial, but our resources are spent better elsewhere. You can see this on the left hand side. We already have 5 characters here that would be more beneficial to pull for us than establishing the rank up team. Okay, then Annalie, you guessed it, must pull. I'm just kidding. It's of course a must skip. There's no question and no way around that one. Now, yeah, Mercuria is part of the rank up team, such as Argus is, right? So they belong together in the gray area, pointing more towards skip. And that was the pull plan from version 3.1 all the way up to version 3.3 for veterans. Let's now go and do the same thing, but for new players that joined the game after the 2nd anniversary. Alright, pull plan for new players, starting off with version 3.1. You must skip Robushka because you will not play Bloodtide or Ultimate Archetype anytime soon. Corvus is a must pull because you need to establish yourself the rank up team, the Dynamo team. Then we have A Knight, right, must skip. You will not play Ultimate. Argus, more towards should skip because establishing yourself the rank up team will be too expensive, and you have the big thing with Dynamo to worry about. So there we go. Eternity, you will not play Bloodtide. Medicine Pocket, you will not play Bloodtide. Then Ezra is a must skip for everyone. You could consider it in case you do not have the character Sharon. You should have him though, because otherwise Corvus will lose a lot of her viability. So you can replace Ezra, and I will put her into the gray area, pointing more towards skip. He is beneficial, but he's so replaceable. You could use any other sustain, whatever you have, instead of Ezra. So there we go. By the way, when I say new players, I mean players that joined the game after the 2nd anniversary, just for clarification real quick. Then we have version 3.2. Here's where things get a little bit more interesting. You're gonna skip the new archetype Afterglow, of course. You have the must pull here with Brume. You will just play this together with Corvus and Sharon, of course, and with any sustain that you have available for yourself. And now comes the interesting part, because in the last version, right, in version 3.1, we have the Christmas banner. There you will, the Covenant of the Water is what it's called. There you will be able to obtain yourself both Flutterpage and Fatutu. You can see this here. If you spend the 60 bunnies, the 60 summons on this banner, you can pull yourself Fatutu out of the Golden Skin 1. And you get Flutterpage out of the Golden Skin 2. Those are 2 very valuable pickups for yourself. And if the resources would allow you in version 3.2 to get your hands onto Anionala and Kalabauna, then definitely do this, right? It depends a little bit. This will be very, very expensive because you already have Sharon, right? You have to pull for Corvus. You have to pull for Brume, right? And now getting Anionala and Kalabauna, after you spend the 60 summons on the Christmas banner, it will be very, very expensive. But this is definitely something that if you could somehow manage to afford it and just get a little bit lucky, bro, you know, what's the big deal? Then that would be absolutely amazing for you. But don't worry about this, don't stress about this too much. The big juicer that you have to worry about is establishing yourself the Dynamo team with Corvus, Brume and Sharon. Then version 3.3, yeah, with Marsha. We skip the Afterglow for new players, no question about that. Annalie, we don't play impromptu. Now the rank up team is where things get a little bit more interesting. Unfortunately, in this Christmas banner, both Via and Marcus are in the golden skin number 2, and you cannot obtain this item twice, so you would only have to choose one of those. But one of those is better than none of those, right? That makes sense. So again, if the resources would allow you to build the rank up team with like Argus, right? You have to get Marcus and Via. Those two are your highest priority. And then you need like Argus or Mercuria. Yeah, you will not be able to obtain Hisabeth. If your resources would somehow allow you to build this rank up team, then absolutely go for it. In that case, you would then have to skip Kalabauna and Anionala. Otherwise, your resources will not work out no matter what. Probably it is going to be the better way to actually go for this rank up team and forget about Kalabauna and Anionala altogether, because all of these characters here, right, the whole rank up team is obtainable via one of the items from the Christmas banner, and every single character is available in Euphoria banners. You would not have to go into a rerun banner for this Anionala character. So that would probably the way that I personally would recommend this. You focus on two teams, right, from version 3.0 to version 3.3. Your main priority is the Dynamo archetype, and after that, if resources are there to spare, focus on building a rank up team. Marcus, Via, Mercuria, Argus. Maybe you could even go and pick up An Lee from the golden skin number 1 here. She is not the best in slot, and she will get an impromptu Euphoria, so she will not be a rank up character anymore, so to speak. You could still use her as a rank up character, though, right? That would save you up resources, and it would make you more likely to be able to establish this team. You would then play Marcus, Via, and Annalie with either Mercuria or Argus, depending on who you like more. I would personally recommend Mercuria instead of Argus, but you would have to wait for Mercuria until she is obtainable in version 3.3 on the Euphoria banner. Argus you can obtain earlier. So yeah, those are choices that you would have to make for yourself. What I can guarantee you is good advice is establish this Dynamo archetype team. And there we go. That's about the video, guys. We covered everything with the deepest detail and a whole bunch of context here for new players and veterans all together. I hope this was fun and informative. If you like Reverse 1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate it. But until next time, don't forget to join the Discord server, link in the description down below. Take care of yourselves, have a great day, and we love this game.